Welcome back to the ranking show. Here we are ranking anything, everything under the sun. We did food last week. We're going back to sports this week, but definitely leave any suggestions you have for future rankings, future drafts, all that kind of shit. I'm Zach Bruner, Luke Reimer in the middle. And today, episode, what is it, 4? Our first guest.
6, 4.
4. I mean, time's relative, truly. Their next week was our last week, and lots of crazy shit happening.
The world of podcasting.
Yes, and that is not Trevor Land. Trevor, you'll see why we didn't have Trevor on for this one, I think, in a little bit. He'll try to say that
Trevor changed.
He'll try to say that he was sick, but
Trevor somehow got even uglier.
No, it's Jake Senholz. He took off his suit to join us on a stream without a suit on. How does it feel to not be wearing a tie while talking to a mic?
It's nice, man. Growing up, I always thought it would be cool to dress up, wear a suit and tie every day. And it gets old really, really, really fast, especially when you have to do it at 2 a.m. But I am a big fan of the show. Obviously, I have a long history with Fleury. I haven't been on a stream or haven't written an article in quite some time, but I really appreciate you guys having me on. I'm a fan of the podcast, and it's going to be a good time. I think we got a good topic today. I do want to say with this topic, I feel like this is one that we could everybody is going to agree there's some home runs, but then everybody else could be like, they're good. They're good tier. This is sports. We all love sports, right? I think we got to be harsh on some of these at some point. There's got to be some bottom tier guys.
I completely agree. We're not going to get a pass here because it's all relative, right? Any sports is probably better than most things. But
there's definitely a stinker on this list.
There's a couple.
Well, okay, so that leads me before we get into it. Like I said, I'm a fan of the show. I was listening to all the old episodes, and I have to address something from the Fry episode. Now, Luke, I have to come to your defense that I agree Freddy's is a great burger.
Thank you.
And what I like about them is I'm a big Chicago dog guy.
Yep.
And they do a Chicago dog in. If you've ever had Cane's, you get the buttered bread, the nice fluffy. Basically, that's the bun that they use. So they do a Chicago dog in like a grilled piece of Texas toast. Really, really good. So I have to agree with you on Freddy's. However, I disagree with you with almost everything else you said throughout the rest of the course of that podcast. So about 4 or 5 minutes into the show, we were on the same page. And then the rest of the time I was like, I think Zach and Trevor were just stomping you on some of these takes. What are you talking about?
Jake, you don't eat chili cheese fries with your hands?
I'm not a chili cheese fry guy. I don't like chili.
Okay, well, so you're wrong.
Well, so you had the soggy fries, you had steak fries somehow being elite, which are steak fries are okay at best when done well. There was a few other things. Oh, you like to bake tater tots?
That's right.
Bad take. There's other things too. I was making a mental list, but right now that's all that can come to me. So I think when we were texting earlier, you were like, I think we're going to disagree on a few things tonight. I disagreed with you on quite a few things on the fries too. So I'm ready to go.
Who invited this guy?
I just don't get the soggy fry take.
No, yeah.
That one baffles me.
I like the potato.
Also, a potato wedge is so much more elite, so much more flavor, so much more seasoning than a steak fry.
Get the fuck
if you're going to compare the two, a wedge is way better than a steak
conversation
fry.
Again.
Yeah, get the fuck
doesn't
out
like
here.
crust.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well,
I like pizza crust.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my 2 cents about I wanted to. Zach, you do have to try Freddy's. It's well worth it.
I've heard only good things from people who want to talk about it in the correct time and place. But if you want to come at me out of a dark alley to tell me about Freddy's, you're going to get sucker punched. That's
agreed.
It is what it is.
Especially when you're slandering Culver's in the process. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, not good. Not good. The way you talk about that last show almost makes me, we got to get this show big enough. So there's an after show. So there's a ranking show and then there's an after ranking show where you rank the rankings, you know?
Yeah, I could maybe play host or play, weekly guest or whatever. Be like, all right, who had the worst takes? We could do that thing, kind of who won the ranking, who had the best arguments, all that stuff.
Bingo.
I would win every week.
Of course you would. Soggy fry.
Trevor did insult Sam's Club, which I go to at least 2 or 3 times a week. So I'll pick that bone with him next time I get the chance.
He's a Milwaukee elitist. We know. Yeah. We're just going to call it for what it is. So, and he's also a soccer lover, which is kind of why he's not on the show today as well. You know, like Jake, 0 to 10. What's your soccer love? Just how much you love the sport. Yeah, how much you love it.
A 0 on love and enjoy, like a level of enjoyability. If I have some money on the game, it's like a 3. I get really excited to watch it, and then you get a couple minutes into the game, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this for 90 minutes or whatever. Like,
why does it count up? Why does time count up?
That makes no sense. And also, a game will
subjective.
A game will be 0-0 or 1-0 till like the 67th minute, and then they'll somehow finish with 5 goals. I don't understand.
That's why you're on the we don't want good soccer takes. Soccer is a terrible sport. We reluctantly are the best in the world at it. Like MLS, best league in the world, best player in the world. We don't even like it. That's kind of where I'm at. So
I was when Patty the Batty was really going off with Barstool for a minute there. I was betting on Liverpool because they were insanely good for those like 2 years. So I was winning some money there. But other than that, I haven't watched a second of soccer outside of a Liverpool game and a World Cup game, maybe ever.
Perfect. And before
it's like you with baseball, Zach.
That's tough. I can't do that sport. Before we get into it, Luke, you already shared one bad food take. You talked about another bad food a couple weeks ago in Subway. Yeah, I heard you have a Subway story. Let's talk about Subway, and then we'll get into the rankings.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this might become like a running theme on this show. Is my experience at Subway. I talked to you Zach, you and Trevor about the last 2 times I went to the Subway. There was like an absolute horrible experience. I was there for a half hour. I don't know how you're in Subway for a half hour. This time I was smart. I ordered online, so I didn't have to deal with all the bullshit. I get a meatball marinara. All it comes, right? Meatball, cheese, and I got pepperoni too. So I go and pick it up all ready to eat it. I get back, sit down at my desk to pull it out. Thing's filled with fucking black olives.
Ugh.
Yeah, like it doesn't even give you an option to pick black olives online. I don't know how black olives ended up on that sub. So I scraped them all off, and like you scrape them all off, and like there's like one less meatball on there because the black olives fill up all the fucking space. So I was pissed about that too.
It's just like the default in your.
I have no idea how black olives ended up on this sandwich. I did everything to avoid black olives, and it still ended up on this sandwich.
So again, to set the tone of how different Luke and I might, our brains, we act the same in a lot of ways, and then we are completely different in so many ways. My favorite food, one of my favorite foods in the world, and my favorite food when I was growing up, my mom still has things from like in kindergarten when they have you fill out like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Which parent do you love the most? Those kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
My mom still has them. And I wrote black olives my entire childhood as my favorite food. Not pizza, not fries, not chicken tenders. I wrote black olives. And pretty much the only pizza to this day I enjoy is pepperoni black olive. Yikes. And when I go to Subway, I say, load them up, baby. Extra black olives. And then when they're done, I ask for more.
Ugh. We already recorded for a little peek behind the curtain our favorite pizza toppings. Or not our favorite, the best. We're an objective show. So the best pizza toppings will probably be next week. I think I said I don't even understand olives. I don't get what the point of them are. It's just a bad grape. And I don't are green and black olives the same plant? I have no idea what these things are.
I think green olives are gross. They have a completely different flavor. They're like bitter and they look more gross. I don't like black olives, but I mean green olives, but I love black olives. So that's probably a weird take too.
All bad.
Let's get the narrative going that olives are evil grapes.
Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. It doesn't make sense to me. But great segue. Sports makes sense to me. So let's talk about sports. So today, I do want to preface then. We're doing the best sports playoffs, the best sports postseason. In my opinion here, this is not the championship game. Like championships included, of course. Mm-hmm. But like if we're ranking the best sports championships, very different rankings for me. So it's the NBA playoffs, not the NBA finals.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Sure does.
Okay. And Jake, I'm not sure if you've seen one episode like this. We're going to each go around and sort of nominate who's on the board and give our take. So, sure. And we'll go you, Luke, then me. So you can pick the first sport you want here. Which sports playoff should we rank first?
Man, I don't want to touch my two, probably ones that I'm going to be way more into than you guys yet. So let's just throw one up that probably I'll get some disagreements on. Maybe Zach, you'll be in my boat here. It's another one of those where I'm excited to watch. I say I'm going to watch, and then I just never, ever watch. It's the MLB postseason. I think it's hit or miss. I don't think it's who cares. I think it is hit or miss. I think it depends a lot on the quality of the game, how quickly the game gets away from the pitching staff. It can get interesting that way too, if both teams are going to their bullpens in like the third inning or something. But then it's either you're excited for game 1 or game 2, or you're excited for game 7. I can't tell you the last time I watched a game 5 or a game 4 or 5, like whatever, of a MLB postseason. If it's not the Brewers and it's not like the wild card round when I'm initially super pumped about it, I just don't. It slips through the cracks for me.
This is my number 2. I think
Really,
when it all boils down to it, I think this is the best crowd in sports, and I think this is the one where every single play matters more than every other option we have here. And I think baseball is a cool sport too, where you can't really run out of clock. You have to pitch to the offense. You have to give the offense a chance, and I think that always leaves stuff open for exciting moments and for everyone to be in games.
wow. Okay, so what tier is your number 2 then? Are you ranking like 10 in the best?
Nope.
The best again?
There's only one in the best. This is
Okay.
great tier to me.
Great.
Okay.
Now, I do have to give you the crowd point. The crowd is awesome, especially if it's like a full count, 8th inning or something like that. I've been to one MLB playoff game ever, and it was when the Brewers lost to Atlanta a few years ago, but I was at the 1-0 victory. I think it was Rowdy Tellez.
Yeah.
Solo bomb. And yeah, that was a cool environment, and I'm sure it would be 10 times cooler if it was deeper into the playoffs or like those Dodgers games or something, back in the NLCS a few years back. I would give you the crowd. I think the crowd definitely brings up the energy, and I think it's fun to be in the crowd. But as a TV sport for me, yeah.
Okay, so I've never seen a single MLB postseason game in my life. For me, it's a pretty obvious who cares. I'm not going to say it's actually bad because I don't know. I've never seen it. So we'll balance it out at hit or miss. But boy.
No pun intended.
Bingo. But like who truly, baseball's played in the exact wrong time of year. I can't imagine anybody's actually watched a full baseball series in my life.
I disagree with that.
Really? Like, okay, it's football season.
We're talking about playoffs. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, well, October baseball. That's kind of what I'm talking about, though, is like, look, you've fallen off the season in the dog days of summer, and then you get excited again. It's like, okay, finally. Like the month of September in baseball, to me, is absolutely brutal. I mean, there might be some interest coming down the stretch if your team is right there or whatever, but it's like brutal. And then you finally get to October, all this hype. Everybody's excited to talk baseball, and then one tiny little thing's happening in the NFL, and that's the major news. That's the headline news. People care more about who's getting cut or when the next season or when the next episode of Hard Knocks is coming out. Then baseball loses its luster almost immediately. I think the one series that outside of Brewers that I watched every single game was Cleveland, Chicago back in like 2016 or whenever they won. I had just moved into my own apartment for the first time. I was like hanging out, just having drinks, watching baseball. That was great. But then again, since then, 8 years ago or whatever, I don't think I've watched a full series, not even close. However, I do have to say, Zach, you are one of the most knowledgeable sports minds that I've ever come across, I've ever met. Love talking sports with you. The fact that you've never seen one MLB playoff game is I know you don't like the sport, but that's shocking.
I turned on, didn't the Cubs go to game 7 or something when they won? I turned it on and then they were celebrating. So that was the closest I ever got to
Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, it sucked.
Sure. I don't know. It's just not exciting to me. I also don't like how baseball's not a sport for casuals. I don't even care what it.
Correct.
Like their series change, like what you got to do in each one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a fucking escape room and I'm just trying to get out of this damn season and we can't get out because I don't know the rules at this point. Like baseball they need to have their World Series in August. They need to change so many things.
You are right about Zach. Like baseball's a sport where you grow up with it, you play it, you follow it like when you're 5 years old and you live with it for the rest of your life, or you just don't touch it for your whole life.
Yeah. It's
Luke,
tough
are you
to just pick up.
You a fan of the one game wild card? Do you think that adds or takes away from the postseason? Yeah.
Love it.
I agree. I like it.
Do most baseball people feel the same way about that as I feel about the NBA play-in thing?
You love the
You
NBA
think?
play-in.
You do?
You do?
No, I hate it. What's
I
the
do
point?
too.
You didn't make the playoffs. Get out.
No, I would say that's more hated than the 1-game wild card is for me.
Yeah, I feel
Okay.
like the NBA play-in feels way more manufactured. Like the wild card is still the wild card. They've always had a wild card, or whenever they added it a bunch of years ago. It's just they make that it's like we don't have time for a 5-game series. Like win this game or go home.
And I think that comes on the back of there's less teams in baseball playoffs than there are in basketball playoffs.
Less teams, and they've already played. If you make it through the
100
postseason, you're playing 190 games or whatever. So
Yeah, too many. Okay, Luke, you're up.
Okay, my number one is NBA playoffs by far. It's my favorite
Really?
sport. It's a playoffs to me that has the best moments. It's the best athletes in the world going against each other. This is the one where really the sports moments are made. Another one where I think the crowd is absolutely incredible. I think it plays so much to the sport, and like you have, and like this one to me is also the best announcers in playoffs. Like Brian Anderson, Reggie Miller, Kevin Harlan, all these guys. Mike Breen. Like Mike Breen is like the voice of basketball at this point. The bang is iconic. This to me, I'm probably biased in this with basketball being my favorite sport, but this is the best.
yeah, I have this as I can't say who cares because it's the second biggest sport in America, and a lot of people care. So for me, it's actually bad. Like they're not good playoffs. They are pretty much uncompetitive for a majority of the way through. There's always those one or two teams that sometimes that you want to see match up. You don't even get that matchup. And then a lot of times the finals are just absolute stinkers. I also, when I was like in my probably biggest sports consuming phase of my entire life, from like post high school through kind of the time I stopped, working with you guys regularly, the NBA playoffs were not exciting. It was two teams going back and forth. And the one year that LeBron pulled it off was exciting, but then it was like, the Warriors, if you go back in my Instagram all the way to 2013, before they were anything, before they made any deep runs ever, I had like this, I love Steph Curry post, a picture of him, all this stuff. I was a big Warriors guy. And then 3, 4, 5 years later, it was like, not that I was like shunning their greatness. I was just like, it's boring. Why am I watching? It's like 2 months to inevitably give the Warriors another championship. Same thing was going for Cleveland and Miami for a while. It's fun to watch dominance, greatness, I guess, but like in a playoff setting for over the course of 2 months, I don't know. I don't think the NBA playoffs is that great of a product personally, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but I think college basketball, which we'll get to, I'm sure, is 1,000 times better.
No.
Really? That's a take that actually surprises me, that you think NBA is better than college basketball. For me, it's the definition.
No, other way
of hit
around.
or
I
miss.
think college or Luke, you talking to? I think college basketball is way better than the NBA.
No.
Yeah. Sorry if I said it backwards. For me, it's the definition of a hit or miss. So we'll balance it out since we are truly all over the board. Like if you get the right matchup, I think it's cool. I think first round doesn't matter. I think finals has relatively little excitement. Like the conference finals are always a banger, but
this
like
is
to get there is a journey, and you need the right matchup.
This is the one. I guess this and March NCAA tournament. This is the one where I watch every single game for playoffs.
Yeah,
and that's the part that I think is wild to me. It's like, when I turn on the NBA playoffs, when there's 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter and it's all that Twitter is talking about is like how unbelievable this game has been, then I'll flip it on. But like for the most part, if you're watching multiple different series that go multiple different, 5 to 7 games or whatever, and the meat of those games for 40 out of 48 minutes is just not good. That's a lot of time wasted for me.
it's also like the crowds can be good. Again, it has to be the right game, the right moment. But like the level of tenseness, like there aren't very many fights anymore unless Draymond's involved. There aren't like people. There isn't like the competitive level still isn't that high. I feel like I know that's like the biggest lazy take on the NBA of all time.
You're not wrong.
But like the tenseness, I mean, like it just barely ever feels like a big moment.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And maybe I have some nostalgia going with my pick here, going back to like 2000s playoff basketball is like the greatest thing in my life.
That was great. Yeah,
I didn't have.
So I may agree with you on that.
I didn't have the NBA in my life at that point. So like I can't like I grew up a hockey guy, and it was like when you're growing up, you have that stupid rivalry. It's like you're either a basketball fan or you're a hockey fan, and like you just don't have time to consume multiple different sports in the winter when you're playing and watching one sport so heavily. But I will admit something to you guys right now that I think might be a little bias as to why I don't enjoy basketball especially at the highest level. It's pretty much the only sport that I never like truly played competitively, and I don't understand the reffing portion. I don't understand how a game is officiated. Like I could not go out there and call a basketball game. I could with every other sport and do it pretty well. I don't understand the officiating. I don't understand why they're calling things the way that they do some games and they don't other games. The signals, like I'm sure it's the same way with you for hockey. I could tell you every single hockey signal, or I could tell you what's going to be called before like the ref actually makes the call. It's just not that way for basketball for me. So I don't know the game inside and out, and I've never played it competitively. So that's why I don't enjoy it watching it the same way that probably other people do.
Take everything you said and flip basketball and hockey, and that's how I am.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably more commonplace that those things are true for hockey, but for me, it's like if I can't get out there and call the game myself, have that deep of an understanding and love for the game, then like it doesn't translate to me as an absolute must-watch product.
Yeah, I feel like almost every rule in hockey is made up. Even when I play NHL now, I'm out there hacking shins and I'm still arguing every call. I don't get it. Like, why can't I trip somebody with a stick? Why do I got a stick?
Hey, I mean, I'm a fan of no rules chell. I mean, when I'm playing video games, you flip offsides off, flip icing off. I don't care. But I take pride in my ability to when I'm calling games, when I'm calling Cyclones games, before the referee comes over, makes the official call and stuff. I'd say I'm 90% accurate as to what call is coming. And most people could probably say that for basketball too when they watch a game. I couldn't.
Fair enough. I'm going to do WNBA playoffs here, just do the counterpart to NBA. And I just feel like WNBA playoffs, everything's the same as NBA, except for it's watered back. There's less good players. There's less teams. And it's like the most predictable thing of all time usually. So I'd put in who cares probably versus actually bad. But I've never watched a WNBA playoff game on purpose. It's always like I accidentally turned it on.
I'll take that one step farther. I've never watched a WNBA game, so I'm with you.
I'll tell you when I watch NBA games is if it's late at night and we got like a 9:00 tip between Seattle, whatever they are, and the New York Liberty, and Seattle's favored by 21.5 points. I'm like, let's just see how much Breanna Stewart or whoever Sue Bird can blow these guys out by. So that has interest to me, but who cares? Really, who cares?
Yeah. Bingo. Jake, back to you.
All right. Well, now that we got the juices flowing a little bit, let's go with another one that people are probably going to hate me for. I think that the college football playoffs cannot be ranked anywhere above hit or miss. Again, I think the excitement is always there. The regular season means something with the 4 teams. I've always argued for years and years, going back to like a sports writing class I had in like 2016. I said that it should be 8. 8 is a good number. I think 12 might even be too many. I think 8 is a great number. 4 is like, if you don't give us out of the gate, if that first matchup isn't great, it's like, well, we better pray that the second one is, or otherwise we got one game that's going to be worth anything in the national championship, which has also not really been that great. The last few years, there's been some really good games. I won a bunch of money on Michigan this year, so that was fun for me. But I don't think it can be any higher than a hit or miss. There's certainly not been consistency that you can say it's great.
That consistency factor is right there for me. Like, this is the ultimate hit or miss for me. Of course, it's hard to say that this is bad, right? Because football is football. Football is king. It's great. It's everything, right? But this is, like, to me, college football is so much worse than an NFL. And I think that kind of plays into my factor. Now, I might bring this up, right, with this new college football playoffs, right? You get to see more teams fighting for more things. But like you said, Jake, that's totally consistency to me. Either feels like in college football, you either get a good game, a really good game, or just a horrible fucking game. So I'm hit or miss here.
We can't rank the college football playoff what they're gonna be. We have to rank what they've been. Okay,
and that's what I'm doing.
Okay. I think they're actually bad. I think it's by far the worst playoff on here. So much so that they just had to change it.
And I don't hate that.
Since its inception, we've been complaining about it. and it's not exciting, and it's barely a playoff. It's 2
Mhm.
rounds. Is 2 rounds a playoff?
That's a fair point.
And when has there ever not been an argument or a bunch of, subjectiveness going into the 4? Nobody's ever been like, yep, these are the 4. Great choice, committee. Like, so it's always got
Yeah.
that factor. There's always people disappointed. There's always a team that lays an egg and is like, well, this 1 or 2 or 3 other teams probably would have played better. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. Who cares? And I don't mind saying that it's actually bad. Like, I truly don't.
And to your guys' point, like when we're talking about the NBA, like you guys brought up the Cleveland Warriors, like it's always 3 of the same team for college football.
Definitely. Or there's like a group of 5 teams that 3 out of the 4 are going to be from that group of 5, and they just rotate in and out every year.
Right. I also think it's tough having a week between rounds, I guess, technically what it is, but games. Like, it just loses so much momentum.
Yeah, and I don't love that teams can go undefeated and not make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everything about it's terrible. It was so bad.
Yep.
Now, again, we do this podcast maybe in a year from now, and we're like, that 12 team was amazing. That was incredible. Well done by the committee. And then maybe it changes everybody's minds. But for them to move off of 4, for them to take this long to move off of 4, once we saw what 4 was for a few years, I think that, they were just way too far behind. We should have gone to 8 or 12 years ago. And I know there's deals and contracts in place and stuff and whatever, but like, make it work. You guys make up all your own rules and all your own whatever. Anyways, you have really nobody to answer to. So just do it. Why didn't we do this years ago?
Do bowl games count as playoffs?
No.
Okay.
No, you don't go anywhere.
Okay. That was always my question about bowl games.
Yeah.
Now, many more bowl games will be included in the playoffs, but right now it's just 3 every year, and it's not even the same dumb. 3.
Like,
but I think it's like
calling like a first round of 3 rounds, like the Orange Bowl. Why would that be a thing?
Yeah,
I hate that. Luke, you're up, but first I just want to, because I didn't read them all. I probably should have done that. So the playoffs remaining, we have the College World Series, and we can kind of group baseball and softball together, I think. March Madness, we got the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs, we got NFL playoffs, PGA's FedEx playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, and then I typed in Premier League playoffs, and that pissed me off so much because like the winner gets upgraded just to get their ass kicked. So we're going to consider this the World Cup because that's technically a playoff, I guess. But that's the reason why Trevor's not here. We can talk down the World Cup as much as we want.
Okay.
So, Luke, you're up.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about March Madness here now that we're into it. This is probably everyone's the best, right? It's really kind of the crowning jewel of an awesome season, and it's hard to beat filling out a bracket. Filling out a bracket is probably the greatest thing in sports, and now coming up, I guess tomorrow and Friday, like those are the 2 best days in sports to me. So I'm with you. The only pushback, and you guys had pushback asking, didn't think or thought that I would rank this higher than NBA. NBA, they make their shots. College basketball, they don't always make their shots. So NBA, they're just better players. That's why I like NBA more. But in terms of excitement and like really getting into it and the whole gambling aspect, it's hard to beat March Madness.
So I completely agree with you. This is a tie for my top two best. By the way, I just realized that my microphone setting was only at 8. Have you guys been able to hear me well this whole time? All right, cool. I turned it up a little bit. But so this is the argument I was going to make for college football too, and I think it plays out perfectly here. For me, as a sports fan, I don't buy into the concept that more points automatically equals better product. I don't think that that's necessarily true in the NBA. I definitely don't think it's true in hockey. When I was growing up, they were trying to make the nets wider. Now, me as a lifelong goalie, I railed against that as much as you possibly could. They obviously never ended up doing it, but they wanted more goals in hockey. They want more points in the NBA. It's the same thing with college playoffs where it's like, Luke, you said it's either a really good game or a really bad game. I don't think a 63-58 college football game is necessarily good every time, so I don't need a ton of points for it to feel like a great product to me. I think in college, the missed shots kind of play into what makes it great. Especially in moments that you should be clutch, and then these kids just go out and just fall flat on their faces. Like I think it makes it like really interesting to me.
There is an element to making fun of 18-year-olds for not being able to hit free throws.
100%. Or the old guy, the 23, 24-year-old, and it's like you should be dominating these kids, and you're not. I think that it's great because of the volatility of it versus in the NBA, if you play 7 games, the better team is going to win. You're going to come out on top. It's just going to happen 9 times out of 10. But in college, it's just like so many mistakes can be made, and it's such a high pressure tournament. I think it's great. I think it's like a perfect product, and it brings in the most casual of fans and makes people care about college basketball. And you fall in love with these kids you're never heard of, you're never going to hear of again. Who was the guy from Fairleigh Dickinson like a year or two ago or whatever, transferred to a big school and you never heard of him again this season? It's like those kind of stories. That's what makes March Madness great to me, on top of the excitement of a bracket and all that stuff.
Completely agree. This is my favorite sporting event on the list. My only argument against it is I think it progressively gets worse as it goes.
Certainly.
Yeah.
But the first 4 days, greatest 4 days in sports for sure.
Yeah. To that point of it progressively getting worse, I've been starting the narrative, and I've gotten a lot of pushback on it. The conference tournaments are actually better than the NCAA tournament because those progressively get better. But you're right. Like this. So this is my number 3 on the list, but I am totally cool putting it the best.
Yeah, it's just so good. The stories are very similar to like when I watch the Olympics. Like there's just people I don't know about, and all of a sudden I'm finding out about them. You're rooting either for them or completely against them. That's great. So yeah, these first 4 days of March Madness are like my favorite sporting event, minus maybe the Olympics, and then like a super stacked UFC card. But those are few and far between as well.
I'm out on the Olympics, by the way.
Really, I love it.
The Olympics.
Yeah, I'm to the who I don't give a fuck unless it's basketball or hockey for winter.
What's better than seeing Rudy Gobert cry as he loses a game for his country?
Yeah, I'm with that.
Good.
Right, I'm with that. But like, I couldn't give a fuck about javelin.
Oh yeah, those kind of like track and field events. Yeah, I agree, but I don't know, man. I'm excited now. Like baseball is going to be in it. Skateboarding just started being in it. Golf just started being in it. Like there's a lot of things that I love that are relevant in the Olympics now. So I love them still. I
mean, Luke, we were very pro America for these first couple of shows.
Yep.
Like there's nothing better than just blind rooting for your country like a fucking stereotypical loser American.
Okay, that's fair.
It's so much fun.
That's fair. I will say probably my number one thing in sports is watching United States basketball just like 60 ball Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we got to do that again.
Yeah.
We can't throw out Robbie Hummel in 3-on-3. We have to do shit.
You're right.
We gotta flex on these guys. Luke, did you nominate March Madness?
Yep, I did.
Okay. I will go. I mean, I'll talk about NFL playoffs. It's the NFL, so it kind of starts at a baseline of good, I think, but I think it loses momentum in the same way as college football, where there's a week between games. I think that's kind of tough. I think the Super Bowl, to be honest, is usually lackluster, but the parties are fun.
Yep.
So that's a good part about it. I mean, it's the biggest day in sports, so I think it's great. I definitely don't think it's the best, but I would put it at great.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in great or even hit or miss. Everyone sits down and watches every single NFL playoff game, right? I'm totally cool with that. And maybe it's just the era that we're in. We're losing a bunch of legends. We got young guys coming in. There seems to be a lot of mistakes going on in NFL. The reffing is always so fucking controversial in NFL. It's really hard to kind of really go along with it. I also think the playoffs take away a huge element of football, and that's fantasy football. Like you can play fantasy, or fantasy playoff football, whatever, but that's not the same as regular season football. And I think that's why a lot of people, I'm not gonna say a lot of people, but a lot of people tune in for football for their fantasy teams. So I don't know. Like it's great to me. Like I said, for college football, football is still the best. So I'm cool putting it in great.
Yeah, I absolutely. I can't say that it's hit or miss. I mean, it's NFL football. I think it is great. I definitely don't think it's the best. I agree that some games, but this is the one to me where it's like even if it's a bad game, guess what? I still put a pretty large bet on it. I'm still watching football. Every game that goes by, you start counting down. You're like, there's only 8 football NFL games left in the season. Now there's only 5. Now there's only 2. So just trying to grasp, every little bit of football remaining in the season, I think makes it great to me. And even if there are a couple stinkers, there's always a couple great games. And again, this might be one that, as I've gotten older, I've the joy that it brings me has started to decrease just a little bit. You know, when you were like a young teenager, like early high school or whatever, NFL playoffs, like hell yeah, give me NFL playoffs. And now it's like I like watching every game. I enjoy watching every game, but a lot of times whatever result my bet ends up taking, you know, overshadows however the game was for me. So
That's fair. I do appreciate like the finality of it, where it's like it's one game, don't have an off day. Very similar to March Madness. I appreciate that. Versus, I mean, we've seen too many NBA series lately that's been like the home team wins every time. Like it's a blow. Was it like a Celtics series last year or a Heat series last year where it's like every home team blew out the away team? It was just gross. Also, what's up, Hypercam? Thanks for jumping in the chat. Luke, go ahead and nominate. No, Jake, nominate one.
Me. All right. So we just talked football.
Do hockey.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking. That's what I'm looking at right now, and I think this also plays into the, you know, kind of loses luster as it moves on if you are not a hockey fan. Now, I think the opening round is incredible for anyone. There's pucks flying around the screen, 3 games going on at once. A lot of times the opening round ends up being really competitive because hockey's unique in the way that it doesn't necessarily seed 1 through 8 as just the best versus the worst teams. So you get some really intriguing matchups, some rivalries in the opening rounds. A lot of time opening rounds will go 6-7 games. This is a spot where I don't mind high scoring hockey games. Now I'm like a hockey purist, I guess I would say, where I think most times a like 3-1, 4-2 type game is almost always going to be better than a 6-5, 8-4, like just kind of ridiculous game. But occasionally you get those in the first round and they're fun. You know, goalies can't do anything. Guys are just lighting the lamp left and right. But then when you move into the later rounds, for me, that's when like hockey really, really starts. You start feeling out your opponent. You start matching up like with lineups. A lot of games are kind of more of a more dreary type scoring, a lot more defensive, a lot more like laid back. First round is like balls to the wall. Guys are just attacking. Second and third round, they kind of, you know, get more reserved and play kind of, I guess, more of a cerebral type of hockey. Goaltending usually shines in those rounds, which I, of course, love. And the Stanley Cup finals are almost always lit. So I think it's great. I certainly don't think it's the best. And I understand that it doesn't have the wide audience that some of these other ones do. But I definitely think that it's great. The physical nature picks up. Everything picks up, ramps up about it. And again, it's one where you have just a ton of casuals, kind of like baseball, you know, get excited and tune in for a little bit. But I think hockey is easier to come back, easier to consume. The games go quicker. The format is better, I think, of like a period format just versus a potentially unlimited inning format in baseball. I think that hockey sets up to be a great product for the casual fan and a product that pretty much doesn't let you down as a diehard fan either.
Yeah, and I figured, and Jake, this is probably one where we're going to highly disagree. I'm on who cares. Like I'm not a hockey fan at all. I probably haven't watched a playoff hockey game in the last 10 years. And I know, well, when did Doc Emmerich retire? That's the last playoff hockey game I watched.
5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe.
So I think playoff hockey takes a huge hit with him retiring. I think he is the voice of playoff hockey. He made playoff hockey, right? He made it exciting for someone like me who does not give a fuck about hockey. I don't know any of the players. I don't really care what's going on. I probably shouldn't even be talking about this because that's how far out I am of it. But I mean, who cares?
Which is fair. I'm not going to, sit here and be like, by the way, he retired in 2020, so just a handful of years ago. Okay. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and try and convert you to a hockey fan on stream. If you don't care, you don't care. I'm kind of in the same boat as, with basketball. Mm-hmm. I pay attention to basketball more than you do hockey, but I think that you can, like, even though you don't watch, you don't consume it, you can respect and you can understand the excitement that it brings and the level, how, like, certainly. I think hockey takes the biggest leap of like, this is how we play in the regular season. This is how we play in the postseason. People say it all the time and it's kind of cliche, but it's like a completely different game in the postseason. I don't think it's a completely different game, but I think it's like a 180. I think guys play the kind of hockey that they want to play all season. It's just impossible to do that for 82 games.
Yeah, playoff hockey is pretty much the only hockey I watch at this point, but I love it. So I would go great. So we'll put it in hit or miss. Truly, like, the intensity is every single time. I feel like the crowd, the play, I mean, there's more fights, everything about it. I just feel like the intensity rises in playoff hockey.
I also think, Zach, like, yeah, baseball, you might get like this awesome like home run or whatever, these like big moments. But sometimes if you get a hot goalie or, a player, a McDavid or a McKinnon that's just going out and putting up 3-4 points every night, or a goalie who's just, 5-6 times a game is making unbelievable highlight reel saves, I think that is consistently more exciting throughout the game to watch this guy who's like completely on fire rather than, one big bomb from one guy and one big moment for baseball or something like that. So I think the little like moments throughout the game are more plentiful in hockey.
I feel like there's no sport that benefits from it being in series more than hockey as well. Like there's nothing better than there's like some cheap shot in game 1 on a guy, and in game 2 he's gonna go and take that guy's fucking head off.
Yeah,
like you're just waiting for it. You're watching it from the opening drop. Like there's nothing better. I love that. However, as we say on the Flurry Sports podcast all the time, like there's no sport that just refuses to market itself like hockey. Like it is the absolute worst at like making people want to watch their product. Like everyone should watch it. But to Luke's point, like hockey doesn't even give us players that we should cheer for or know. Like just give us people, tell us who to cheer for, and they just don't do it.
It's fair. I mean, the game is full of a lot of weirdos. Like you find that playing it your whole life. Like we're weird guys. Like especially goalies or the superstars. They're not like eccentric people like you get in the NBA or the NFL or whatever. They're just not, and they're incredible hockey players. And the person they are on the ice is like, you see them off the ice, and you're like, how is this the same guy? But we got some of the best goal scorers ever in the history of the NHL playing right now, and like. Casual fans probably couldn't name more than maybe one of them, probably outside of Connor McDavid, maybe Austin Matthews. There's guys that can score at that level, all over the NHL. So.
I would love to see a hockey player go on Instagram and brandish a gun like John Morant did.
Yeah, maybe that's what we need. Gary Bettman would shit a brick, but maybe that's what we need.
Hockey would benefit from a scandal right now.
Yeah,
there's something big to happen.
Unfortunately, there is a big hockey scandal going on right now that's going to land like 5 really good young hockey players in jail. Not the greatest scandal. Carter Hart, who, Zach, on your website, I've basically jerked Carter Hart off for like many years in my Vezina articles and all this other stuff. And he's probably headed to prison. So not great, but that's I guess that's the publicity.
Okay. That's fun. That's fine. Luke, you're up.
I guess since we kind of talked about it, I'll give my absolute stinker. I just don't give a fuck about the FIFA World Cup, if we're being honest. Like, soccer is the worst sport ever created. I have no interest in it. Even when the United States is in, I'll watch the first 5 minutes, and then I'm like, why don't they stop the clock when the ball goes out of bounds? Why does the time up? Like you said, Zach, everything's subjective. Who the fuck even cares about soccer? I have no interest in it whatsoever. I could live my life better without soccer being in it.
Yeah, I truly tried with the World Cup the last time, and I watched USA's first game for, again, like you, like 5 minutes. As soon as I saw, like, was it Pulisic or someone, I don't know, like rolling on the ground, like crying about getting touched. Like, I can't support this bullshit sport. That's not how the MLS plays ball. So like the World Cup, FIFA, not about it. So I'm actually bad.
I will say my saving grace on the World Cup, I love that there's always corruption going on.
I do too. Yeah. Like the Qatar thing was the best part about it.
Yeah. So like this is probably the playoffs where everything other than the play is better than the play.
Fair.
Yeah. I also think that the money that these guys get, like, people are signing $1 billion contracts. And like a lot of times it's like guys that are, if you're worth $1 billion for a couple of seasons, you should also be big in the United States. And these guys are just not. They're just simply not, So I also agree with the corruption. I think, same thing with baseball, lean into the steroids. Like, let's make this fun. Let's muck it up a little bit. I like hearing all the soccer stories. This country paid $300 million to get this rule overlooked or whatever. And then on top of that, Saudis are paying $1 billion to one player for a team that nobody's watching 1 second of their game. I think it's fascinating, but I also agree. I think they're actually bad I think that there's no rooting interest because our teams are always bad. Now, if we go down to like a shootout or whatever, again, I'll tune in for that couple of minutes to see, a shootout result. But it's like most of the time, World Cup, I don't even check the scores.
No.
Like I don't even care.
There's no interest whatsoever.
Yeah.
No. It should be a sport that's a lot bigger on social media too.
Yep.
Like the worst part about soccer is that you're waiting around for something to happen.
Yep.
So they should be able to clip like an exciting moment and have people get excited about it. And even still, that doesn't happen.
No.
Yeah.
So I'd said actually bad. Where are you two?
Yeah.
At?
This is last on the list for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think again, it's hard to say who cares with something like this because clearly so many people care. So like, I'm not going to say who cares. I'm going to say like you can care. It's just not a good product.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's a great description of it, Jake.
Mm-hmm. Is it me?
Yep.
Who is it?
You.
Okay. I mean, I'll go with NASCAR playoffs, I guess. This is another one. Like, I honestly don't know if it's bad. Like, I don't know if the stakes rise during this versus a normal race. I don't know anything. It's truly a who cares. But I do know who cares. But I can't imagine why you would. But yeah,
Agreed.
For me, it's a big who cares sport.
I agree with you 100%, Zach. This is the only sport that I root for bad things to happen, and that bad thing being a crash, because crashes are just absolutely incredible. And you get a couple every single race. I don't love how like when you crash and there's caution, like it counts as laps when you're going around. You can't pass people.
Dude, there's nothing more
cut it
brutal
off and then start it over.
The 500, which I get it happened on the last lap, but like you finished a race in caution.
Right.
The last time I went to Bristol, they ran like 70 out of the last like 100 laps or whatever in caution. It was like they literally finished like 30 straight caution laps. I'm like, what's the point of even finishing the race? You can't pass anybody during caution, whatever. It's like you might as well just call it 30 laps earlier if you're just going to be caution the whole time.
In football, you move the drill if someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
NASCAR should just go off road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
have to have an obstacle.
Yeah.
What's great about NASCAR is the pit crews.
Yeah.
It's incredible watching them. Like those are the best people in the world doing their job. It's incredible to watch that.
For sure. So Jake, where did you land on this then?
Yeah, I would like to fancy myself somebody who knows a little bit about NASCAR. I wouldn't call myself a fan. I've never really watched a race on TV. I have been to Bristol 4 times. I could probably name you a dozen or more actual, drivers, but that doesn't mean I really know anything or pay attention to the sport. And again, I think that this is one that's like, isn't it mostly settled throughout the regular season anyway? I think it's kind of set up like golf where like guys have advantages and like it's not like a even, okay, everybody made the playoffs, now everybody has the same chance. I think it's like a tier system at some point. So a lot of it is decided like golf, which I'm going to argue for in a moment. So it's kind of ironic here, but I think a lot of it is decided throughout like the regular season. And then as long as like the drivers just stay solid, the drivers who were in front kind of stay solid throughout the playoffs, I don't think results really change a ton. I could be wrong about that, but
this is one too where maybe I'm kind of jaded because like when I go up north and like we're sitting at a bar drinking or whatever, people are hardcore NASCAR fans. And when I ask them, can we turn on the Clippers Kings first round game? People want to fucking kill me when I ask them that. So fuck those people. I don't like it.
So Jake, where do you land for a tier on this thing?
Boy, I can't even say hit or miss because like it doesn't hit or miss for me. I'm in the who cares category. Like it's NASCAR. Who cares?
Okay, we'll put in who cares then. And then
I don't think it's bad because NASCAR is exciting and they actually market their drivers, better than hockey could ever market their players. Like I think,
true.
Their races can be compelling and they have some good personalities, but it doesn't ever hit for me. I'm not like, holy shit, you guys see that NASCAR playoffs last night? I've never once said that.
Yeah. So you're at least a somewhat of a race fan. Do you talk about it after the race ever, unless something bad happened? I feel like it's done and you're like, okay, next thing.
In my experience, it's more you talk about the guys that you're surprised didn't run well. So you don't really talk about the top like 3 or whatever, but it's like, oh, Tyler Reddick like took like 25th. He's been hot lately or like whatever. You kind of talk about what happened with this guy. That's in my experience. You don't really, unless it's like a photo finish, which just happened, recently. I know between like 3 people, but in my experience, you talk about the guys that you thought would run well that didn't run well, and that's kind of it. and the crashes.
I don't understand how some drivers are better than others too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also don't like that you have to use like the same shit for the most part.
Right. Like
it's not like F1 where they're just like, hey,
Right.
make this car as great as possible. Right. They're like, no, you have to work within these confines.
Yeah. Don't like it. Okay, Jake, you're up.
Yeah, so I got to go golf now because I'm going to contradict myself quite a bit. I think that golf is another sport that is largely settled in the regular season. However, I'm sure NASCAR does this too. The few postseason tournaments, the FedEx Cup playoffs, are heavily, heavily weighted. They're worth like 3 or 4 times as much as a regular season event, worth more than like a major in points because they want to try and keep it interesting. I like it because it's a smaller field of guys that all played well all season, all deserve to be there. Pretty much your top guys are going to be paired up throughout most of the tournaments. And I like how it's set up right now with kind of the tiered system. Look, I think if you played the best all season long, you deserve to have the advantage coming into the last, because you can have a bad round, you can have a bad day or whatever. You should have a little bit of cushion if you've played well since February and now it's, late August. I would be open to seeing some like reform on how it's done. I know some golf hardos have said, hey, let's make the last 9 holes even, or the last day, like a match play event. Let's make it a mini match play tournament over the course of 2 days or something. I think that would be amazing. I love watching match play. Again, people who don't understand or don't like golf probably would feel like they're being tortured having to watch match play as the final round, but I think match play is awesome. I would put it in great. I don't even think it's hit or miss for me because I love every one of these guys. It's incredible high level golf. Certainly not the best, and I think you guys are going to rank it way lower, so I have to skew it in my favor and say that it's great.
I like that. I love golf. I play golf. Watching golf on TV is great. My pushback with this is it feels like the majors are more important than the playoffs, and maybe that's just the excitement factor around it.
10,000%. No, like they 100% are more important for your legacy, for just the momentum of the season. The viewership is way higher. If you don't care about money, like if you're not a live guy because you're not caring about the money, you probably don't care that much about the FedEx Cup either, because the FedEx Cup literally is like, it can go to a guy who didn't win a tournament all season, but if you played well and you placed in the top 3 to 5 guys all season, you're earning your FedEx Cups, and then you play really well late at the St. Jude's or whatever, you can put yourself in position to win the final tournament, and all of a sudden, boom, you're FedEx Cup champion without winning a single tournament all season. I can see where there's some problems or some flaws with that, but the majors are much, much, much more important in the grand scheme of things, but you don't get paid $15 million at the majors. That's the thing.
Fair. Okay. Interesting. So I guess just my to me, like, golf playoffs like are probably I guess with golf being in the Olympics now, probably the 7th best, most exciting event in golf behind the 4 majors, the Ryder Cup and all the Olympics. So for that reason, I can't put it any higher than hit or miss.
Yeah. And it's not one specific, it might kind of, with golf too, it's like a lot of it is, all of those things that you just listed, it's in the confines of 4 days. It's one individual tournament, right? Whereas the playoffs are over the course of 3 separate weekends. And then you got the funky scoring system. There's kind of a lot to follow in there, which I would agree. I'd even maybe put the President's Cup in there as more exciting. Those team events are awesome to me. That's why I think if you maybe spice it up, use the first 2 tournaments to cut it down to maybe, I don't know, a final 12 guys, and then have them play an elimination match play event or something like that over the course of a few days to actually cap off a champion. I think that would be cool and kind of give it more of a March Madness-esque type feel. So there's definitely room for improvement or to change it up, shake it up a little bit. And again, it kind of suffers to the point of like people might not be like, it's like, look, we already watched 4 majors. We're looking forward to the President's Cup, or we're looking forward to the Ryder Cup or whatever. So like, who cares about golf in August? I'm not going to watch that. I'm concerned about, my fantasy team or whatever. So there can be a lot of that too.
Yeah. For me, it's definitely hit or miss. So I'll land it there. Like, it can be great. Golf on TV is awesome. If there's the right people in there, and if it's close enough, it's going to be exciting. But yeah, to your point, the majors are bigger. And then truly, if you want to make the playoffs something, it should be just the tournament champions from the entire year. Like, it doesn't matter if it's not going to be that many people. That's what it should be. And then if there's not that many people, have them mic'd up. Then it's like the match and it's exciting. That's fun. Do that.
That would be something to consider. It's like, hey, if you won a tournament at any point throughout the year, you have an automatic qualifier to the finals, and then maybe you can do the tier system based on how many total points they accumulated over the season or whatever. But if you win, you're in. I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah, it just makes sense to me. I don't know. And then the last one is College World Series. So we can combine baseball and softball here. For me, it's definitely better than the MLB postseason. I've actually watched some of these games, and there's a little bit of juice when you get colleges involved. That's funny. You get to see some Georgia fans barking at the pitcher or something. That's a good time. So for me, it's hit or miss still, though.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is who cares, but it's rising quickly. Like, I recently got into college baseball, and it's actually very fun to watch. You don't really have to deal with all the bullshit of the no salary cap in the MLB. Now, of course, the play is going to be much worse, but some about metal bats are really cool, right? So I'm in who cares, but this is rising really quick to me.
I have to be in that same camp where it's like I'll flip it on, or you see some highlights. I love the metal bats. I think if the MLB went to metal bats, it'd be the most electric thing of all time. Obviously, we'd have to make they'd have to be playing in like I don't even know.
Park.
Yeah. I mean, bigger than that, like probably like Coliseum size,
Right.
something like that. But I love the sound of a metal bat. I think that college anything can be exciting just because like the players are so fired up. It means so much to them. They're on a finite amount of time to do something for their school. So I think that college has that advantage over pro sports. But if I'm being completely honest, and I really only disagree with one of our rankings so far, I have to put it as who cares. I don't even think it's even hit or miss because I don't think enough people consume it at a regular rate year in and year out for it to be hit or miss.
That is fair. So for our final rankings, we are saying the college football playoff and the World Cup are actually bad. We are saying who cares about the WNBA playoffs, NASCAR, and College World Series. We're thinking hit or miss for the MLB postseason and NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, and FedEx playoffs. We think the NFL playoffs are great, and then the best is obviously March Madness, which we are in right now. Good time to be alive.
Great time to be alive, right? Like right now is the best 2 days in sports, and as a basketball fan, now till the start of June is the best time in sports to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's
like
fair.
I said, the only one that I would change if I think if there was a second hockey guy on here, then we could have swung the Stanley Cup playoffs to great. But I'm okay with going down with agreeing with what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10 out of 11. I guess I'll take that.
Yeah, not too bad. It wasn't very argumentative, I would say.
No, but that's the problem with like sport. Like I said, in the end, it's like at the end it's sports, and we all love sports.
Yeah, like,
So
like,
it is
you said off the rip, any sport's better than no sports.
right. It's a lot less fiery and less subjective than something like fries or something where there's a list of maybe 15 or 20 items or something like that, where you can really once taste or personal opinion and stuff like that gets involved, then you can mix it up a lot more. Sports are sports.
Yeah, I mean, we did fries last week. Next week, we'll post our pizza toppings, the best pizza toppings. I feel like food gets contentious. Tempers flare a little bit, stuff like that. We'll have to do some music one coming up as well, too. But yes, these were the best sports playoffs. We're in March Madness, so 'tis the season. Maybe we're a little biased because of that. But let us know what you think's the best sports playoffs. Which ones do you think we completely misranked? And which ones are absolute dog shit? Do you agree with us? Let us know. Share the show. Definitely subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and rate us 5 stars there. That helps a ton as we get started here. And comment on YouTube, the Flurry Sports YouTube channel. Comment below this video other things you want to see us rank. And if you comment, if you have suggestions, we'll get to those pretty quickly. I feel like those will be the ones that we hit up pretty fast. Jake, nice to see you. Nice to talk with you. Happy to have you back on the Flurry Sports YouTube channel. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I just it's great to be back with you guys, talking to all you guys, and like I wish that I could still do stuff at the same consistent basis. It's just not possible with what I got going on in my career right now. But it was we just fell right back into it like old buddies do. I love streaming with you guys, podcasting with you guys. I appreciate you having me on. Anytime that you need to fill in on this or any other show, be it Lombardi Sweep, anything that you guys do, just definitely let me know. I'm going to try my way back into the world of flurry sports more here because I miss all this stuff. It's much more relaxing to do it in a sweatshirt than a suit for sure.
Yes. That's why I didn't go into the business world. I actually told my business advisor that straight to his face. I don't like ties. Not going to do it. Luke, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just an absolute crime that Virginia got put into the NCAA tournament, but that's for a different show. It's for a different talking point. Other than that, thanks everyone for listening. Good to talk to you again, Jake.
Yeah. We will see you guys again next week.